Hey everyone, welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. This is your host, Stacey Lauren. Well, you guys, I'm excited because when I do cool things, I meet cool people. And that's exactly how I met my next guest. We are part of one of the same communities with Eileen Wilder's community and have been learning to run this masterclass system together as we are getting our voices out in the world and getting people to get excited about the things that we're doing. And that's how I met Angelina, who is a master at doing the thing, because every time I see her, she is in massive action and has people around the stuff that she's doing, which is just amazing. And both of the things are really, really important to me. And so I'm so excited to connect with her. And really because so many of you I know are looking for things that can help you with longevity and wellness and health. And especially for those of us that are aging and we're kind of getting to this next phase of our life where we see where things can go. We want to be the best versions of ourselves as we're going through it. And so I'm so excited to dive into her story about that as well and how she helps people do that. So I am welcoming Angelina to the show. Hey, Angelina.
Hi, Stacey. I'm so glad to be here with you in this format.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I know it's funny. We've been in each other's worlds for a while, but I think we really connected when I saw the name of your masterclass that you had shared in one of our groups. And I was like, everybody needs this. Everybody needs this. Do you want to share? I feel like I want to go through your story, but I want to kind of start there so they know what you're doing now. And then we'll go into like how you learned to the thing that you're doing now too.
Yeah. Good question, Stacey. So I am really into all those, anti-aging stuff, anti-aging modalities. I mean, this is my passion. I live that. I mean, this is integrated in my life every single day. And I'm just so passionate to do the thing for myself, first of all, because it's comes from my personal journey and my personal story of being very sick. And, we'll get into that, but it's just my passion because I believe that each one of us can live, I call it the vital, sexy life. So regardless of your age, regardless of who you are now, and maybe you're not feeling the way that you're supposed to feel, right? Maybe how you felt like 10 years ago, right? So I'm in my 50s right now. So, and like going through my journey, I mean, the way that I feel now, it's absolutely different how I felt in my even mid 30s. So again, it's just my passion. I live that. I coach people on that. And this is just my everyday life.
Yeah, and I think it's so important because I'm 51 and it's so easy to go down the path of just not doing for ourselves, right? And the more that we are wanting to do other things, it's hard to remember sometimes, no, what we have is impermanent. We've got to take care of ourselves and our bodies and the things going on so that we can live in this fullest version of ourselves. Because what else are we going to have, right, if we don't have our body?
Yes. And what I always say that God gave us this beautiful body, and this beautiful body can do very sophisticated, beautiful things. Mm-hmm. And this is what I teach in my practice, that our body has this amazing ability to heal itself. And when we tap into the process of how we can do that, so it becomes very, very easy. Just, like some fundamentals that we need to know and start to experience. As you say, do it every single day. It's like, caring for yourself every single day. Once you, stop caring for yourself, this is, where all issues comes up. But when you start caring for yourself, and again, I mean, this is just, such a beautiful process. And we were giving, again, by God, our bodies that can do all those amazing things. And I'm so fascinated by our incredible abilities to heal ourselves, but we get into that, I guess.
Yeah, and let's do that. So yeah, where did this start from? What's your story?
Yeah, let me take you back about 10 years ago. So I was in corporate world. I spent 25 years in Silicon Valley in executive management. I was in a totally different career. I was in IT, building infrastructure and clouds, and I was in cybersecurity, and I was in production engineering and whatever. I did so many things in tech in my life, working for, small and big corporations. And my life was cool. I actually, loved my corporate job. I got into this track when I was like 30 years old, and I really love my corporate story. At the same time, I was basically a single mom at the time with no relatives. I'm an immigrant, so I immigrated into this country when I was 23 years old. So I live here more than half of my life, but I'm an immigrant, so I really don't have any family here. And it was tough. I mean, I had a daughter. It was tough to be in this corporate world in Silicon Valley and manage my stress and just, be successful in the corporate world. And that's where I started to feel all those symptoms. So I had panic attacks, I had anxiety, I had all those digestive issues. And what was interesting that at age 35, I started to experience this weird thing like pain and aches just all over my body, just all over. And I was like every single day, it was so hard to live with that. Migraines, all of that. And I was introduced by my friend to a renowned Stanford doctor, because I lived in Silicon Valley. So this doctor, finally, I was like about 37 years old, 38. She was diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. Now, later, I learned that fibromyalgia is just basically a term for 1001 symptom. When doctors don't know how to diagnose you, what is that? Because it just, we need to look into our body as a whole, not just different parts. Oh, you have migraines, I'll send you to the migraine doctor. Anyway, I was diagnosed with this, and finally I thought, oh my gosh, okay, now I have this diagnosis, so okay, we can take this under control. So she prescribed me a variety of medications, including very serious antidepressants and anti-inflammatory steroid medications, and even opioids, just, so I can relieve my pain. And it just got worsened my symptoms. So fast forward to age 42, I was already married, happily married again, and I gave a birth to my youngest daughter. I was 42, it was pretty late in my life, and couple of months, and I was, like when you give a birth to baby, right? So, and it was so late in life, and you just get into the space of being a mom again, right? So like you mom again and taking care of your daughter and everything. I was so happy. I was so mesmerized. And she's so adorable. And I was hit with a new diagnosis. So the doctor diagnosed with incurable liver autoimmune disease. And he pretty much showed me that, Angelina, if you're not going to get into medication, so in 5 years, you will need liver transplant. So that was the day when just everything fell down onto me. And I just couldn't imagine, so what's going to happen next? So am I going to survive? What's going to happen to my daughter? So, it just, all those thoughts came into my mind and were rushing into my mind. So I still remember, that day I was sitting in my car and just, going through all of that. But something inside of me, told me, Angelina, there is a way. It's not your story. So what happened? So that day, that night, I basically, opened internet. It's an amazing tool for us. I sat down and I researched literally hundreds. I still have those profiles in my computer. Hundreds of profiles of people with similar diagnoses like debilitating illnesses, autoimmunity, cancers. And this is something that I started to see the patterns of what they did. They all talked about the inflammation. They all talked about the toxins. They all talked about how inflammation really stands at the core, right? So at the core of our illnesses. And they also talked about the nutrition, the diets, and all those modalities. And I was like fascinated. And they healed. So I saw how those people were healed. So again, it was deep dive for me. Like I spent this night and then the next week just looking into all this stuff. And then I found this amazing fasting doctor. So he was in California in Santa Rosa. His name is Dr. Goldhammer. And I signed up for his program. So I spent 3 weeks with him in a clinic just doing the water fast. And while doing the water fast, I learned so much because this was not just the way of me being there and going through this protocol of fasting, but it was a way for me to learn about the holistic modalities, because this is what they do in the clinic. They teach you, all those holistic modalities. Mm-hmm. So the long story being short, after spending 3 weeks in this clinic, Stacey, it was just incredible. My results, my blood test got elevated. So my liver, enzymes got to normal. And that's another story for another conversation. What was the whole process of that? Because it was very tough. But what I'm trying to say is that it gave me a boost. It gave me the boost. And the doctor, this holistic doctor, not just a conventional, he told me, Angelina, I know there is a lot of challenges in front of you, but you're going to be good. He gave me so much hope. And that's, again, this is Stacey. This is the power of our mind. when we start to believe, right? When we start to believe and someone will give you this hope. And this is what, I mean, like what happens with those, patients that go to the conventional doctors and the doctor tell, you don't have time or you have only 2 years or whatever is that. We lose hope. So we need to keep our mind focused on the positive because that's the power. I mean, this is what I teach. This is the first step of our healing process. So again, I mean, like fast forward, I'm completely healed. I recovered from my autoimmunity. I recovered from fibromyalgia. In the process of doing it, within 3 months, I lost 60 pounds of weight.
Wow. Amazing.
So I usually share, I don't have it with me because, I mean, it's a different format, but in my master classes, I share my transformational picture, how I looked when I was 30, like all puffed up, my face was like this, I call it cortisol face, with a stress, like a burnout and inflammation, and how I look, I mean, I'm 50 right now, and how I looked in my mid-40s, because this is where I changed my life and everything, and basically now. So again, this long trajectory and my journey brought me all this, the knowledge, research. I even went to holistic school. I left corporate, Stacey. I left corporate 4 years ago because that was the time when I recovered and people started to ask me, Angelina, what did you do? And I started kind of just to give people some advice. And then I hosted, it's called Optimum House. I just decided, I was still in corporate. I was not planning of helping people, but I've hosted this summit with 25 doctors, celebrity doctors. And those doctors, a lot of those doctors helped me directly, indirectly, through the books, through the podcast, through the mentoring, direct mentoring. And I said, okay, I just want to tell people my story. So I did it was a summit. So, and I interviewed these 25 doctors in the space of holistic world. And it was about how to reverse chronic illness holistically. And they all introduced me to their audience. I was like, what? Dude, is that really truth? Like, I mean, can you guys believe that? And I mean, they did that. And this is, how I build 5,000 list of people. I mean, and I just started to send some articles to them. Like, okay, so this is what I did. Yes, so this is what I did today. That was the beginning of,
wow.
my story of helping people, Stacey.
Amazing. Yeah, I love it because, it almost had to get bad enough, right? That diagnosis, a liver, that's like, oh my gosh. So it had to get bad enough for you to be able to see that you needed to make a change. And then once you made the change, now you're able to help other people make the change. Yeah, it's amazing. What do you think would help people listening to get started if they want to do this for themselves? I know they can totally come to your masterclass and learn, but is there something that would also help them until that happens?
Yes. Well, there are fundamentals of our well-being, right? So those fundamental, call them, the 7 steps. And what I teach in my practice is basically the cellular rejuvenation, okay? Because when we look at our body, everything goes down to our cells. Because, this is the smallest particle in our body, right? And the cell performs so many functions in our body and how our cells operate. So that really depends on how we feel and if we healthy or we are not healthy. Just a little bit of science. Imagine there is a cell, so a circle, and there is a membrane, right? Basically outlining the cell. And once this membrane gets damaged, okay, and it could get damaged from so many factors, but very, specific factors is basically bad diet, nutrition and toxins, the toxins that we get, and we get toxins from everything, from the food, from the water, from the environment. I don't know if you see the conversation this day, but, and I'm glad that those conversation happens even at the Congress level, where people started to bring to attention and create awareness how we are in states the most sick nation. We are the most sick nation. Stacey, I just traveled in Eastern Europe. I was in Belarus, I was in Russia, I was in Eastern Europe, in Lithuania for 2.5 months in the summertime. And Jesus, there are no overweight people, not whatsoever. And this is just the epidemic of what's happening here. And that comes from toxicity. If you look at, and actually, there was a lot of people just in the Congress right now talk about that, how the food was manufactured back there. versus how it's manufactured now. It's loaded with toxins. So again, I mean, we need to watch for that. We need to watch for toxins because inside of our body, imagine that inside of our body, there is kind of the funnel, right? So it fills every day, drop by drop, with toxic load. And when it starts overloading, it starts to create the cellular inflammation. This is where your cells become toxic. On the outside, the membrane becomes toxic. And what is the main function of the cell? To get good nutrients in and to let toxins out. So again, I mean, this is number one. I mean, what we need to do is completely be aware what's coming up for us. I mean, what we see in our food and our water and our environment, and eliminate the toxicity. The second thing that what we need to do is start basically detoxing our body, because our bodies are clogged. And when you are clogged, you cannot basically relieve toxins out of your body. So you need to start detoxifying your body. And when that happens, then you should watch for how you eat. So, you can heal your gut with a good nutrients. And how I can explain good nutrients? Just make sure that you get, all the vitamins and nutrients in. And it's not about, Stacey, it's not about like different diets. I was on the trillions of millions of different diets in my life. I was in my 30s as with keto, and then I was vegan. I even was raw vegan for 4 years. I ate only raw foods for 4 years. So I've been on gazillions of diets, but what I learned, with all this decade of basically healing myself, it's not about the diet, because we can get the same nutrients, vitamins, minerals, right? So with different sources of food. So again, I mean, you need to make sure that you eat nutrient density. So there is enough nutrients in your diet. So like, for instance, I can tell you like, what is pasta? Pasta is just empty calories, right? So I mean, if we look into that, just empty calories. I always tell that my 19-year-old yesterday, she came back from school and I had some, something cooked in the fridge and she didn't check that. And I asked her, so did you have, and I was out with my younger daughter, did you pick up the dinner? And she said, no, Mom, I made myself a pasta. And I was, do you know what pasta is? And she said, yeah, Mom, I know, it's just empty calories. Plus, when you eat carbs, it creates havoc in your hormone balance. So you also need to learn how to manage your hormones, and how we do that, first of all. And not only your hormones, is regulating your blood sugar, because we're spiking. Because let me talk to you a little bit about aging. Do you know what aging is? Aging is, there is a process called glycation in our body. So how it works is, so for instance, when you put a chicken inside of the oven and it starts browning, this is the glycation. So it's browning because of the glycation. The same thing happens in our body when we eat sugar, because when there are tons of molecules in our body and they just, run as kids on the playground. And when the sugar molecule hits any other molecule, it damages that molecule. So it's great oxidation. And this is the glycation process. So what's interesting, this is a crazy path. From the moment we're born, we go through the glycation process and then we die. So in order for us to slow down the aging process, we need to flatten our blood glucose spikes. So, I mean, there's so many ways to do that. I teach that in my master classes, my programs. So again, I mean, take care of your gut. I mean, detox, control your blood glucose spikes, detox on the cellular level. Remove stress, because stress, it's a huge factor for us. Because, I mean, I was stressed out. It's 80% of your diseases is stress. And sleep. Oh my gosh, sleep is number one factor, for longevity. Like, have a good 8 hours of sleep every single day. So just basic, if you can, and movement, but not just, go to gym, and you don't need to do all of that. You can start just by walking to lose weight. So again, there is so many things. I actually love teaching about the exercise physiology for longevity. So, I mean, what are the things that you want to do when you turn 60 and 70 and 80? And then we backcast from that. So what do you need to do? Because, I love skiing. I mean, this is my passion. And I've shared with all of you guys so many times, I want to ski when I'm 80. So what do I need to do to ski when I'm 80? And there's a specific protocol that can outline for you that. So, mobility, cardiovascular things. So again, those are the basics that you need to get under control. And you can really turn back aging very fast, just to feel better within like 3 months. It's very fast process when you take care of those basic pillars in your life.
What do you think gets in people's way of being able to do this for themselves?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I experience that with my students and my clients. What gets into their way is just, first thing is not having a big why behind it. So for instance, let's say that people want to lose weight and, like there is a new year, people make this new year resolution, right? So the new year resolution, okay, so starting January, I will go to gym. And this is what happens. So when people put this goal in front of them, okay, I want to go to gym, and I want to exercise. So they don't have a big why behind it. So why are you doing that? So what is it behind this goal? And then, as you know, January passes and gyms lose, it's just a statistics, gyms lose their, subscriptions because, people stop coming to gyms. This is having your big why. So if you have a goal and there is a way to think about your goal, like I think about the goal as your identity, who you want to become. Who do you want to become? What is a person that you want to see in the mirror looking at you? And then from there, and what is your big why behind it? So that's the first thing that, holds people, from achieving their goals. And the second thing is just not focusing. So they're just kind of, and we do this as entrepreneurs also in our lives. And I know that what's very important is a process when you do the things every single day, because it all counts. It all counts, those little things. And this is why I love what you do, Stacey, and how you inspired me to get there every single day and just do what I need to do. Those little moments, right? We do it the same with our health. And so not so much focusing on the end result. Even you're not getting it today, you will get it tomorrow, because once you have this consistency of doing this, and this is, I teach that in my programs. It really comes back to neuroplasticity and how our mind being very flexible, right? So, but doing the thing, showing up yourself and just do those little, I call them habits, actions that really changes how you feel about yourself, how you look every single day.
And so it sounds like if someone was going to do something today to have a little action, walking is one big important one. And then what would be the two things that I'm going to do today that will really help me live this better life?
Yeah. You've got it right with walking. So what I would suggest, just do it. Wake up in the morning. I really, really love morning routines. So because we can set ourselves for success, in a day when we have a morning routine. My morning routine starts very early. And I go out there in a field when it's sunrise and I read my scriptures and I get connected to God and I walk. And there's much more that I do. But your morning routine is so important. Again, if you just start, because the other thing that, for people who wants to regulate their sleep, if you go outside and just look at the sun, it's called sun gazing. And why it's important, because we have a special receptor in our eye retina that reacts to the sunlight. And basically, we start waking up. And this is very important for regulating your circadian, so your biological clock when you start looking at the sun first thing in the morning. So I really suggest for anyone to get out there first thing in the morning and just, look at the sun and walk. And if you start doing it, do it 5 minutes, just 5 minutes today. And maybe next week you will do it 10 minutes. That's it. Just start moving, because when we move, miracles happen. We don't want to be sedentary, because sedentary really kills us and that creates aging. And the second thing, control your blood glucose spikes. And tip number one that I give today in this format is eat your protein breakfast. Eat your savory protein breakfast. So you have the energy. You have the energy for the whole day, so you will not experience the sugar crash. Because when you eat your carbs, and some people think like eating, oatmeal would be healthy. For some people, it will be so unhealthy because it's going to spike you up and then you're going to crash. So focus on eating the protein breakfast and just watch the labels. Watch the labels, what you get inside of the body. Those would be like basics. Start moving, watch your sugar, start with protein, hydrate yourself, and just, and read the labels.
Yeah. Well, tell us about what you're doing. You have a masterclass, you have training, maybe share a little bit more about how you help people too.
Yeah. So I have each couple of weeks, my sending masterclass. Sometimes I do challenges, and sometimes it's 2 hours, sometimes it's 4-hour masterclass. Really depends on, what I teach. But I just pop up usually on Saturday. I love Saturday mornings. So when people can come up, we start coffee or tea or, green juice, whatever works for them. And we just hang out. We just hang out together. And this is like a party, Stacey. So it's not just me just giving the information. So, I make it in a way that people collaborate. They ask questions. They give takeaways. Because, in that format, people really not only they absorb the information better and they actually inspire to transform their lives because, they started to understand what's happening. So it's a party, so anyone can, it's basically in my, like my Facebook, my bio, so they can, pop-up masterclass is always there. But we just come there. I also help them through the challenges. I help them through my different programs. I work with clients in group settings and, in VIP settings. I do retreats. I do workshops, like on-site workshops. So there is a many way how I help people. Also for people who follow me on the social media, I give them some content in social media. It's Angelina Kardash Method. It's my Instagram account and just Angelina Kardash as far as Facebook. Yeah, so that's the way that I help people.
And what would be your number one piece of advice for people on doing the thing?
On doing the thing. I know it could be scary. It could be scary to show up every day and maybe scary and maybe you don't have a motivation to do those things. But when you start not just to focus on the result, when you start focusing on a process, on just doing it, showing up, and you start seeing how you feel. Because when I show up for myself in the morning and when I do my morning routine, right? So I feel incredibly vital and I have all the energy, and then I read my scriptures, right? And I do all those things. It's just the feeling of feeling amazing because this is what your brain is going to remember. It's going to remember the feeling because, Stacey, we do things not because we do them, we need to do them. We do things because we feel doing them. We feel doing them. And that's, for me, this is so important. When I'm feeling doing the thing, this is what changes that for me. Like when you invited me to your challenge, doing the things. And I know that my biggest problem is procrastination. And this doing the thing really made me feel so amazing because I was showing up for myself every single day and doing the dares. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was so good to hear your story. I love how you're helping people and I love what you're doing. It's literally probably the most important investment or even just time investment, any kind of investment that people can do is to do what you're teaching. Because like I said in the beginning, we'll kind of circle back to that. What else do we have, right? If we don't have our body.
Yes. And I just want to inspire people that we have this amazing ability basically to influence the change in our bodies. It gets down to the term of epigenome. It's something that sits on top of your DNA. So it doesn't matter whether you have a bad genes, right? Because your genes are not the destiny. Your genes are not the destiny because we have the power with the power of epigenome. Again, it's like a piano player, right? So imagine you have piano with 80 keys and the epigenome sits on top of that and it plays the melodies, right? And it's up to you which melodies this epigenome is going to play. So again, if you take your life under control with all those things that we talked about today, you can influence your epigenome so it can turn all bad genes and turn on good genes. So I just want to inspire you guys that your genes are not your destiny. And it's not hard to start taking control of your health and wellness because this way you're going to turn back aging. That way you can live not only longer, but not having a debilitating disease in the last decade of your life and being just stuck in a hospital bed and be vital until the very, very end. But again, just to be mobile and to experience, all those experiences and have vitality to do all those projects and things that you want in your life because you have vitality, you have health, and again, you can turn back aging.
Thank you so much. And thanks you guys for joining us and do the thing. Don't wait for opportunity. Create it. And hey guys, have you checked out my Facebook group yet? Go to dothethingcollaboration.com.